you do anything?
No. I'm just
Okay.
going to welcome everybody.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this wonderful, beautiful world. This is another LMTV session, but let me tell you something. We got a great guy with us who's got some great technology. I've known him quite a while. Uh, and then, of course, our main commentator host is Mr. Denny Mew, another great friend. So, welcome, and you better listen today because Wi Fi is really becoming an avenue of terror for you.
Thank you, Tim. And once again, welcome everyone. We do have a very, very special guest today, John Gerbers from a company called What's on My Wi-Fi. And uh, John, being besides being a technologist, which is one thing that he has in common with Tim and I, he's also an entrepreneur. And so we're not only presenting a product today in a company, but we're also presenting a great entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks a lot, Danny. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me on here again. I appreciate
Well,
it.
you were the last time you were on was quite some time ago. So why don't you take this opportunity and kind of update our audience? Tell us who you are, your company, what you've been doing, and what's the latest and greatest.
Sure, yeah. So my name's John Kerber. I'm the co-founder of Who's on My Wi-Fi, and we're based in Oklahoma City. We've been doing this for about 5 years. We started with a free software that Tim's very familiar with and has been downloaded over 1 million times at this point. That basically will just show you over time which devices are on your network, right? And it's called Who's on My Wi-Fi, same as the company, and we got a lot of response from that. And really, the last time I was on the show, that's what we were talking about was the downloadable free software called Who's on My Wi-Fi. In the last 3 years since being on the show originally, from our large free user base, we actually found a really nice opportunity in something called Wi-Fi Analytics. It's kind of a part of this new trend of location analytics, trying to kind of give better technological and data resources to people that own a physical location as opposed to a website. And that's what I was actually going to be talking about today. But yeah, that's really what we've been up to, is that we still have the free product out there. It's still in use a lot.
And John, what are let's start with the problem. What are your intended audience or intended consumer for this product?
Sure. So for the location analytics, what we found is store owners, small municipal government, things like that. Essentially, if you think about it, when you have a website, if you have something like Google Analytics installed, you can know a lot about the user base that's coming, what language they speak, time of day, all those kinds of things, and you can give them a better experience because of that. Which content people are checking out, you can give them better content. So that's kind of the audience that we see in the location analytics space. Is much more business and government.
Okay. So what would be the one or two problems or difficulty that they would encounter before they say, I'm looking for a solution?
Sure. So everything from what's the best time of day if we had to do network maintenance? What's really the best time of day to do that? How have our trends changed over the last 6 months? Are we getting more people using the Wi-Fi now? Or are we getting less people using the Wi-Fi now? What's the busiest hour in a week that is really kind of peak usage, and does my bandwidth handle that? Does that make sense? That's
yeah.
kind of,
And then possibly coordinate that with sales.
Exactly.
If you're in a retail business, right?
So we find it's either a user experience or sales as kind of the lead driver on location analytics. So either in improving the resources that customers or visitors are using, or is there some way to improve sales from having this additional information?
Okay. So you have prepared something for us. Why don't you take that?
Sure. Can you see the screen here? That's
okay. Yeah.
Okay, great. So just a couple things that was kind of going to cover. I wanted to talk about location analytics in general, because I think a lot of people don't really know enough about it. It's fairly new. It's a fairly new market. And then some of the technology that's out there, which is basically Bluetooth versus AP probing versus Wi-Fi. And then I was going to show you how we handle this what our solution looks like. So just to kind of get started, as we were talking about, I mean, location analytics, what is the real point? Like, why are people doing this? And it really has to do with this crossing the digital to physical divide, right? And it's just like what I was talking about. It's that, websites give you a lot of information. You can know which IP they came from. You can give them the correct language. You can know what content people like, so you can give them more of that content. And then also from a sales standpoint, which pages people go to before they buy a product. How frequently people are returning. So things of that nature that on a website, you really don't know in a physical location, right? So as far as a store, you might know the sales, but that's basically the end of the funnel. And very importantly is that when someone goes into a physical location, for the most part, there's no unique identifier, right? So you can't really know if this person that came back 2 days from now was the exact same person, right? Even with some of the camera technology and things like that, you might see a woman in a red coat. Well, the woman in a red coat who came back 2 days later, was that the same woman or a different woman? You don't really know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people are trying to do with location analytics, is basically they're trying to get better information in their physical venues, and through that making the experience better for visitors, right? So that's kind of what location analytics is in general. Okay, and any questions about that? I mean, it's kind of a growing field at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a little bit about the technology that people are using to achieve some of these goals with location analytics. So the big one that people are hearing about is Bluetooth beacons, right? So if you've heard about Bluetooth beacons, they're being set up in stores and different locations to kind of give people a better user experience. That's the goal, right? And basically the idea is you put these Bluetooth beacons in a store, and then when you use the store's app, it knows very quickly where you are in the store and maybe some other things you might want to see, right? Or there was a big success story at South by Southwest where people were using the South by Southwest app and they could see where people were at and kind of where people were congregated at the moment. Does that make sense? And and there's feedback associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of that's one of the things that people have really been interested in this space is Bluetooth beacons. But there's some downside to Bluetooth beacons as well. And one of the biggest ones is that for the most part, you really have to have an app installed, right? So if someone goes into a random store in the mall, what are the chances that they already have that store's app, right? And the answer is it's pretty low, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's different with conferences, events, things of that nature. People install an app to be there for 2 or 3 days. And so that's where they're seeing a lot of success. But that's kind of the biggest problem. So kind of as an alternative to this, what people started looking at was using Wi-Fi, right? And one of the big reasons is that Wi-Fi is always on. Wi-Fi is everywhere, just like you were saying. It's already on. People already have it turned on their phone. So there's this thing called Wi-Fi access point probes. And if you've ever seen Aruba access points, Meraki access points, Aerohive access points, they do this stuff that they call retail analytics or location analytics. And essentially what it is that if you have a smartphone that has Wi-Fi turned on, even if it never connects to the Wi-Fi, if it just comes within a physical range of the Wi-Fi access point, it can actually be detected. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So people are using that a lot, especially in airports, things of that nature, where there's really very low chance of them installing the app. But you want to have a general sense of where people are going so that you can improve the physical location. Does that make sense? And Wi-Fi access point probes are kind of how people are accomplishing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third technology is just directly Wi-Fi analytics, and this is where we actually fit in. So this is if I want to know who's actually on the Wi-Fi, right? Then what can I derive from that? So if I know who's on the Wi-Fi network, then I can know things like new versus return users, average devices, all these kinds of information on my user base, on the visitors there, just on who's using the Wi-Fi, right? Once you do that.
Hey, John, for some reason we lost the connection on the second computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you might want to just re-log in, and we can continue to talk while you do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Sure.
we lost the PowerPoint that you were showing. Yeah.
Oh,
So in any case, so while you're doing that, so how big is the company now?
yeah. So there's about 7 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in one place, or?
Yeah. So for the most part, we have people in Oklahoma City, but then we have one person that's remote in Illinois and another person that's remote in Edmond.
Okay. Okay.
So,
John, have you been able to sign up any representation across the country, or are you going to try to keep all the sales directly through the company?
So what we've been doing so far is basically we do internal sales. So that's primarily what we've been using. We haven't really reached out to distributors or resellers or something of that nature.
But when you're ready, let me know and I'll introduce you some good people,
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
domestically and foreign.
All right, let me see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, people just while you're sitting there, I'm just gonna, people forget that Wi-Fi is an opening to your network that needs to be monitored. You can't just plug and pray. You've got to understand who's on your network, because Wi-Fi is a load on your network. You can't think of it as a separate device uh, in the network domain, because when people log on there, they're logging onto your network. And it's also one of the easiest most of the pen testers will tell you, pretty easy to hack most Wi-Fi's. Can enable and that. So you want to know who's on your Wi-Fi. You want to make sure everybody's on there are people that you want on there. And a lot of these open Wi-Fi's in restaurants and clubs and coffee bars and that, we've actually seen those being used for criminal events. So you kind of want to make sure you keep that log. As a matter of fact, I'll jump here just one thing. Make sure whatever router you wind up using, make sure it keeps a log file, because that can come in extremely handy. I have an article coming up in the next 2 or 3 weeks about how law enforcement actually used a Wi-Fi log to track down a really bad person. So having this capability that you got is, well, personally, I've been preaching for 2 years. Put who's on my Wi-Fi on your computer. Everybody, even in corporate, in your home, you should do it. It's the beginning of learning. I'm sorry, John. Go right ahead.
No, can you see
Yeah,
this?
we can see it now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
now we got it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so like I was saying, we're in the Wi-Fi analytics space, and basically, I wanted to show kind of a comparison table for what's going on in location analytics right now, and kind of which hardware and software solutions people are using, right? So you can see very quickly here that basically Bluetooth, for instance, you can track this new versus return visits. You can see that really across Bluetooth, Wi-Fi access point probes, or Wi-Fi. But some of the downsides with Bluetooth are that it requires an app, and that's where we're really building the stuff on top of Wi-Fi, whether it's the access point or whether it's an app like ours, makes a lot of sense. You do get higher accuracy with Bluetooth, which is why people are, I think it could be the future, and so I'm definitely keeping an eye on it with what's going on. And then, is there hardware required? And this is actually one of our big points and why people are using us, is that if you want these location analytics and you're using Bluetooth, then yeah, you need to install beacons across a physical store or physical location, or you need to purchase access points that are really kind of location aware, right? So the Arubas, the Meraki's, the Arrow Hives. And if you're not really looking to do that, then our software, because it's light and it's software based, is a really good solution for people right now. And that's where we're seeing kind of the primary verticals. The people that are using Bluetooth, like I was saying, was events. So if you're going to a conference for 3 or 4 days, it's really convenient to install the app anyways, right? And so they're using Bluetooth because it just makes perfect sense. And then we're seeing in retail and restaurants, quite a few people are actually switching to this access point based detection. And then we're actually seeing quite a bit in city government, state government, things like that. Is where we're getting people that have concerns and want to see what's going on the Wi-Fi for various reasons. Not always actually very heavily not from the security side, but more from the how much are people using it, what's kind of the repeat visit rate, just analytics that they want to see based on that.
So John, just to make sure that our audience is still following us. So the Wi-Fi, the one on the right side, that's your domain, right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Great. And so I just had a best when. Again, it's when visitors are using an app already, Bluetooth seems to be the right way to go. When visitors are not going to be using the Wi-Fi, then something like the access point probe that the Meraki's and Arrowhives do. And then if visitors are using the Wi-Fi, if that's one of the primary reasons they're coming to this space, then we've been a really good solution for them. Mm-hmm. Okay. And yeah, so just really quickly, the positives on ours is it uses existing infrastructure, no new hardware, and it's very lightweight, right? So it doesn't do any kind of like deep packet inspection or port scanning, anything like that. And there's no app creation or integration. So that's really how we've been kind of winning in this location analytics space is people that really want those factors. So, all right. Well, so with that, I wanted to show you what it actually looks like when you're using Who's on My Wi-Fi. Okay, so Tim's very aware of the free software agent, and that's a downloadable Windows software or Android app that you place onto a computer, and then it connects to this cloud system, right? And this is the cloud analytics system that you're seeing right now. So I'm going to go into the analytics part just a little bit. The first thing I actually want to start with is repeat visits. So let me show this. So
while you're doing that, I want to make sure people understand. You're not actually looking in a cloud. You're looking at access. Because when people say cloud today, they think that's where they're storing their data. Okay, so this is connection oriented, not FM.
Right. So so basically, what you can see here is this repeat visits report. This very easily shows you how many devices actually came on and how many times they came for the month. So, for example, you can see this 135 devices came one time this month. So this would be kind of your casual Wi-Fi user. They showed up for a day, and then they never came back, right?
So what makes a visitor unique? Is it the MAC address that makes them unique?
It does, yeah. So the MAC address of the device
okay.
detected. Yeah.
What's on the bottom line underneath? I can't read it. What's on the bottom line?
This one right here. Oh, this is how many times those devices came. So
yeah, but what is it designating? What is that, an IP address or a MAC address?
Oh, so so this is just showing the times. This is the date range. So this was over a 30-day period. Right. Okay, so let me show you the next one, which is the new versus return report. Right. And so again, this is more on the marketing side. So what you can very quickly see is this is the number of devices that showed up, and the first time they were here was just within the last 30 days, right? Versus your return visitors, which is your people that the first time they came onto your network was more than 30 days, right? So basically, if they're a new user, they're showing up in blue. If they're a return visitor, they're showing up in orange. And you can also see this first scene. Right. And why this was really interesting was people wanted to see from a marketing standpoint what programs were bringing people onto the Wi-Fi. Right. So if there's marketing outreach or there's specific programs that are bringing people into a building and they want to know what program actually brought them in, then they can see it on a day-by-day basis. Oh, this actually brought in 5 new people to our space. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
you can even coordinate that with the time so you know who was actually at the counter.
Yeah, and I mean,
which employee actually bring back more return customer.
Right. When you can even zoom in hourly to really see on an hour by hour basis uh, when did new people join the network? What was really bringing them in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can export it for reports.
What's that?
And you can export it for the reports. I noticed.
Yeah, that's right. We have exports to CSV or table view. Um, the the next thing I wanted to show you, and this is something that Tim was actually talking to me about earlier, was the average device usage heat map. So this is what I was talking about. Let me give you one from last week because it shows the spikes just a little bit better. This is where it starts to show you when are people actually on the Wi-Fi, and what's kind of your peak device usage, which is a good proxy for what's the peak bandwidth you would expect, right? When is a good downtime, right? So obviously Sundays at 5 a.m. seem to be a good time to do network maintenance on our network, right? So this is kind of the information you can see from average device usage. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
John, I'm having a hard time reading what's the parameter on the bottom line. I can't quite see it.
Oh, sure. So these are over here. This is weekdays. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then this is hour-long breakdowns. So midnight to 1 a.m., 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Does that make sense? And then noon to 1. So this is basically over a week, each 24-hour period or each 1 hour period across an entire week.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, okay. And just one more thing I want to show you with it is the unique devices report. And so what people are using this for is this is the total unique devices that were there for a day, right? So 48 unique devices actually showed up on this network that day. And then 56 showed up that next day. And then this is kind of nice because this is what people are calling the impact score. So for example, a community impact score. If you wanted to know how many people in a town that were using Wi-Fi at a place actually showed up and used that Wi-Fi over a month, then that's what this is, right? So, and basically a good example of that is 48 people used it on Monday, 56 people used it on Tuesday. Well, were those the same 48 people? Were they different 48 people? You might have 50 plus 50 plus 50 is 150. But if they were the same 50 people, it's different than if you're really bringing in 50 new people every time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of the what people have been very interested in from an analytical standpoint about their Wi-Fi network, about their usage. And yeah, that's really, again, our free user base has been out there in all about point in time tracking of which devices are on the network. And then we found a really nice market with this location analytics to where they wanted to know even more. Okay, I want to know who's on the network, but why do I want to know who's on the network? So outside of the security concern is I'd like to make my business better. I'd like to make this location better. We'd like to serve the citizens in a better way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Anywhere do you keep track of the main IP address or the, what URLs are going to or anything like that?
So we don't track which URLs or something like that people are going to, and that's something that's actually very, very specific about our product, and it is something that I've been pretty adamant about. Is that we've got people using this in a government context, right? So citizens. Two aspects of our technology. One is that when it's connecting to the analytics system, we have privacy enabled by default, right? So what I mean by that is not privacy just meaning maybe we hash the MAC address before it goes to the cloud. I mean, we're using like hashes plus unique salts and cryptographically strong salts before it ever even goes up to our cloud. Right, and the reason is because we want to make sure that when people are maybe at a public park and they go onto the Wi-Fi there, and if they happen to be using our product, we want to make sure that the park can get all the stats they need. But someone's not tracking that John's iPhone was at this park and then at this park and then at this park. There's not kind of this big database that's tracking everyone's MAC address or where they were at. So we do a lot for privacy and anonymization before it ever even goes up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really more about presence, that you were there, right?
Right.
And not so much about what you do at the time. John, why not, I really like to um, limit the show time to about 30 minutes to maximize the chance that our viewers will be watching this during weekdays. Why don't you wrap it up and kind of again, give a shout out to our audience. Why would they? Who would be the people that ought to go to your website and try this out?
Sure, sure. So, pardon me. I am closing. Got an infinite loop there. All right. So, who would be most benefited from the analytics part? Right now, what we're seeing is city governments are using it in various ways. Store owners, coffee shops, people where Wi-Fi is really a part of their business. They're really the people that like the analytics, and they're kind of driving that product forward. People that want a better idea of who's using their Wi-Fi, they just want the information. Our free downloadable app is a great place to start, just to get an idea of which devices are on the network, kind of what's happening on the Wi-Fi network over time. It's a really good place.
Okay, thank you, John. Hey, Tim, you've been a user of John's product now for since the last time that John was here, right?
Yeah, for 2 years.
Yeah. So and you told every friend of yours.
Yeah, anytime I go, anybody wants me to go in and take a look at their network, just like we typically do in basic networking or LAN networking. We want to know who's on there, what's our IP spread, who is this address that we've never seen before, and Wi-Fi is an opening to your network. A lot of people, network managers, tend to look at Wi-Fi as standalone, but they don't catch on that all that data has got to go through their network. Plus, you don't want the guy next door using your network. And I've been involved in at least 3 criminal events where someone hacked into a Wi-Fi that an employee put in, and they were doing illegal things over the corporate network. And they were sitting in a parking lot, all of them. So knowing who's on your Wi-Fi, even at home, you should know who's on your Wi-Fi. It's not uncommon for people to borrow your Wi-Fi. Even if you code it, it can be hacked. So I've used it. I don't even know how. Every computer I own has it on there. And now this new technology is really going to be helpful to companies to plan their RF environment, to companies wanting to know about repeat customers, what time of day they need it more. Do they need more bandwidth for them? All kinds of cool stuff. So this is really great stuff. I don't know of anybody else that's built anything like this, and I recommend everybody go to who'sonmywifi.com and download the free one. Boy, will that give you great insight, and then the paid for application is magnitudes above that.
Yeah, so it's a real shout out to anyone out there, even if you're just running your own family network. I mean, most of us, every one of us do. You really do need to go to John's website and just at the very minimum, it's just sort of a what do you call those? A gateway, right? Gateway tool. download the free stuff, the software that John has been working on for since 5 years ago. That should be a good start. And then I think once you do that, then I think you would then find that the analytic products that John talks about today to be quite useful as well. So, well, with that, I once again I'd like to thank you, John, for coming to our show, and I wish you the best of luck with your product. Looks like we talked last time. Being an entrepreneur, it's important to have a vision. But right. It's also important to have peripheral vision, Makes the wrong customers always use your product, and you got to find out why, right?
Thank you, Danny and Tim. I really appreciate being on the show. I really appreciate it. So
okay. Thanks, John. Thanks, Tim. Stay alive, And with that, I'll bid you goodbye, and thanks for watching us, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.